So probably the biggest thing I've noticed since freshman year is that there's been a lot of cuts in advanced classes. We're now limited to only taking like 3 AP to PSU classes, which is too bad. And you cannot take more than one class of one of the core classes, such as science, math, or English. For certain students that don't want to take other electives, this can be really inhibiting. And it's just too bad that we have to deal with these budget cuts.
Okay. Because outdoor school isn't as long as it used to be, the kids, both the 6th graders and the high schoolers, don't get the full benefits of experiencing the full week program. The kids will show up, leave a day and a half later, 2 days later, and they really just get an introduction to what outdoor school is. And even though the high school students still are able to stay for the full week, the chance that the program will be cut from funding will eliminate the chance for these high school students to experience such an amazing program that really helps them in all aspects of life, both academic and social. And along with these cuts, they're closing some of the sites that outdoor school is held at. Like a couple years ago, the Adams Mill Creek site and the Arawana site were closed. And even though the Arawana site was brought back, and a couple sessions later, now the Namanu site is being closed. And it's sad to see that such an amazing program that's been part of Oregon since 1966 is endangered of being shut down.
Good.
For 10 years, I was the activities director here at Grant High School, and also a drug and alcohol counselor. So a few years back, with some budget cuts, they cut both of my positions and left Grant High School without an activities director and without a drug and alcohol counselor. So other people have had to kind of pick up the, what was left behind without the position being filled. Even just here in this classroom, last year my numbers went up, the number of students that I've had. So it becomes more and more difficult to really serve each student the way they really need to and ought to be served. So
I think the biggest frustration from my professional standpoint is just I don't think we're even nailing the basics here at Grant High School. And by that I mean, obviously there's holes in the schedules. And so when there aren't classes for students, they're out in the halls. I think Mr. Gavitt likes to call them the hall sitters. Those that are in the know to come in here in the College and Career Center and ideally get things done. But frankly, there's a lot of time where kids aren't doing productive work because they don't have any productive work, because they don't have enough classes. So that's frustrating.
Educational funding is going to change in a lot of ways. How are we going to change? Because we're going to try to actually be put in the bucket of public education, higher ed as well as K-12 early learning. It's also going to change in the form of ways by which additional investments are going to be made in some of these, what you heard tonight, strategic investment areas. Some of the work around professional development and supporting teachers, STEM, STEAM, that kind of thing. So we're going to put some money aside to basically create an opportunity for people to try out new ideas using some of that money. And it's also going to change really by virtue of asking people to essentially, educators, but asking them essentially to think together, collaboratively with public, other agencies, public high schools, meeting with community colleges, meeting with four-year institutions, early learning centers, meeting with parents and more people in the community. But the assumption is that no amount of money that we have is ultimately going to be enough until and unless we leverage it in working with other institutions. That's why I said tonight, one of the enemies of this is isolation, people doing their own thing. There's a much different model of funding than people working collaboratively. So that's the ways in which I think it will change. All right.
the schools have been cut so drastically over the last decade that even if we don't see, you know, much in terms of sort of reduction of staff, at this point, what we really need is to be getting more teachers back into schools. So even if we remain flat, it's kind of funny that we think remaining flat feels like a big. I don't know if people have just gotten so tired of sort of fighting for public school dollars, so they just have sort of stopped. I'm not really sure what gets in the way of people being proactive, but one of the things I've experienced in my role here is that people are always reactive after the fact. So I would love to see more of a shift of proactivity as opposed to, okay, now Principal Owen's going to share her budget, and all of a sudden it's not what people want to hear, and then people all of a sudden get really upset and want to take action.
I think that probably the biggest change is we're going to see an increased use of technology in teaching, which probably your generation is a lot more equipped to deal with than my generation. And also, I think, as we talked in there are probably different ways of learning and teaching for different students. So the real challenge is to be open to different ideas of learning than just, you know, a bricks and mortar building, which is what I did. So I think that I'm very optimistic, actually, about Oregon, about the future of education.
All right, well, thank you. Do you think we can get a picture of you?
Absolutely.